My colleague in the Council of Ministers, Janab Javed Ahmed Rana Sahab, my advisor, Janab Nasir Aslamwani Sahab, Principal Chief Conservator Forests, Suresh Kumar Gupta Sahab, Vice Chancellor, SKUAST-Kashmir, Professor Nazir Ahmed Ganai Sahab, Dr. Susana Gonzalez, Dr. Mario Miletti, Dr. Stefano Focardi, delegates of this conference, members of the faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I wish I'd spoken before those two documentaries, because I can't help but feeling the highlight of this evening would actually be those documentaries rather than the address that follows after them. And those documentaries are what convinced me to set aside the written address that I had prepared for me. Because I think those documentaries bring to the fore the urgency of what these conferences are all about. It was an eminent conservationist, M.K. Ranjit Singh, who said that conservation is not about animals alone. It is about human survival itself. So when we stand here discussing how to protect the Hangul, or how to protect the Markhor, or how to protect other species from extinction, it's not about simply protecting individual species. It's about protecting this life, this world that we have, for humankind. If we for a moment were to believe that we can allow species after species to go extinct, and it would have no bearing whatsoever on human survival, then I think that would be a cardinal mistake to make on our part. The fact of the matter is that there is a sensitive ecological balance that in some ways we inherited, but in many ways we haven't done enough to protect. The growing realization that more needs to be done to protect species that are threatened is a case of, as they say, der aaye durust aaye. Better late than never. It's better to realize the need to protect the Markhor when the number is 100 than the need to protect it when the number has gone down to 0. The same is true for the Hangul. The same is true for other protected species. I was actually discussing with my colleague on the stage, Nasir, and I asked him when I saw the documentary, because the visuals were so stunning, and I asked him whether he had been fortunate enough to see a Hangul in the wild. And he has. I am sorry to say I haven't. Living here within an hour's drive from Dachigam, I have not been fortunate enough to be able to see a Hangul except for literally like a pinpoint through a binocular. But at least in my lifetime, I know they're there. I don't want a situation where tomorrow our children or our grandchildren will only recognize these animals from photographs in books. I don't want a situation where tomorrow the Hangul or the Markhor or other protected species like these become for us like the dodo or the woolly mammoth or so many other species and subspecies that one could name that are simply now photographs in books. Yes, there are challenges of habitat, challenges of poaching, challenges of hunting, human and wildlife conflict. But obviously, the first step to finding a solution is to first identify the problems. Now that we know what the problems are, it is then duty bound on us to take all the necessary steps to ensure that we take corrective measures. And unfortunately, government at the best of times is very slow in acting. I remember in my previous government, actually as a result of the first conference that we had, that an area of concern in Dachigam, which was a sheep breeding farm, was flagged. And the conference took place, if I remember correctly, in 2010. In 2013, which was about 3 years later, we took a cabinet decision to move the sheep breeding farm. I lost the elections in 2014. A lot changed after that. As a result of this conference, I actually wanted to understand what happened of the decision that was taken in 2013. It surprised me to learn that a fresh decision was taken in 2017. Another decision on the same lines was taken by the Administrative Council in 2019. And perhaps now we are at the point where the sheep breeding farm in Dachigam is going to be shifted to a place called Khimbar. We can't afford to take this much time to implement decisions of such importance. Because these species and subspecies are not going to wait for a government file to move from department to department in the Secretariat. There has to be a sense of urgency to translate the findings of conferences like these into action on the part of government. Because there are conferences that take place purely for theoretical reasons, for production of papers and various other things. Conferences like these have very important findings and recommendations that require to be implemented. And that's why I'm particularly glad that the Vice Chancellor and his team, particularly Professor Khurshid, thought it fit to invite me, my ministerial colleague and my advisor, to be a part of this conference. Because unless there is a synergy between the academic work that is done in our academic institutions and the actual implementation of recommendations on the part of the government, I fear that tomorrow we will end up in a situation where this magnificent animal will not be visible to us. And again, I mean, you know this better than I do. Every species that we lose disturbs the delicate balance that species was there for. No species exists in isolation for no reason whatsoever. And again, drawing from people far wiser than myself, the late Valmik Thapar, who we lost earlier this year, he had also observed, and in relation to the tiger he had said, When the tiger is protected, the entire ecosystem thrives. The same is true for the Hangul. The same is true for the Markhor. They are there for a reason. When they thrive, the ecosystem around them thrives. When the ecosystem around them thrives, humankind will thrive as well. It is as simple as that. And therefore, I am grateful to all delegates from outside of the country, from the rest of the country, and from within Jammu and Kashmir, who gave their precious time over the last 2 or 3 days to be a part of this important conference. I know it's been many years between the first and the second conference. I do hope that it won't be so many years between the second and the third conference, and that important work like this will continue. I, on my part, on the part of my ministerial colleagues and colleagues in government, assure all of you that the recommendations you make as a result of your deliberations will be taken very seriously by my government and implemented at the earliest, so that next time when we have this conference, the population of the Markhor will have gone up, the population of the Hangul will have gone up. And I look forward to a day when those of you who come to participate in this conference can be taken to Dachigam, and there will be so many Hangul that you won't know what to do with all of them. That is my hope, that is my belief, and I'm sure that if we approach it the right way, as we've seen success with Project Tiger, as we've seen some beginnings of success with Hangul and Markhor, that success will continue to grow. So once again, to the team at SKUAST, to all of you, thank you very much for having me here, and all the very best to you.